Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? In this video, we're going to talk about what you can do with $2,000 in options. Danny, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you guys a few different trades that you can do using just $2,000 bracketed trades. So you have a very defined risk and reward as far as your max gain, max loss. And like that, you'll know how much you stand to make or lose.
We're expecting most people to have a basic understanding of what options are. There's a ton of videos on YouTube that can explain options so you get a basic idea. So we're not going to get into videos about what are options and different puts and calls and all that stuff. We're just going to get straight into a couple of trades, a couple of options that you could do to generate some income. And speaking of generating some income, how much money are you expecting to get on your return for around $2,000 and in what time frame?
The sweet spot for the type of options that I'm going to discuss is about 15 to 20% per option setup, so that you're making a good return, but you're not at a huge risk. Sounds like a crazy high return, but for options, that's really not that high. For most examples, we'll be talking about an actual risk of maybe about $400 to make about $100, give or take, about 10, 20 bucks in the other direction. The first one that we're going to recommend actually for doing the option trade with is TLT. It's an ETF that tracks the US Treasuries with 20-year duration. So it's pretty boring, pretty steady typically, outside of the last couple of months, just with how crazy everything was in March. But I like it as a consistent option play because it really doesn't move that much. So with that in mind, in order to get a decent return, you do have to go further out because of the lack of volatility. So that's why it's the only one of the three that we're going to discuss that is actually July rather than June. I would recommend selling the 156 put and then bracketing that by buying the 151 put. So your actual return ends up being 82 cents divided by your risk of 418. It's 19.6% return on that actual trade. So here's an actual visualization of the trade. They call it a vertical put spread, since you're buying a put at a certain price to cap your losses and then speculating the stock won't go lower by selling a higher put option and collecting the difference in premium, since the higher put option has more value for being closer to the current share price. This is where the stock currently is at 163. And your break even on it ends up being if the stock gets to 155. It looks like 155.18 around there.
Yeah.
Roughly. So at that point, from then on out, you would end up starting to realize a loss on July 18th. Any price above it, you'll have a small gain. But I will warn, you need to close out this option if it is at any price below 156. So secondly, we're going with United Airlines, mainly because it is a beaten up stock, and this is very important, the volatility is very high on it. So you're able to stay farther away from the current price and still actually get a pretty good return by selling a put and then buying a lower put and capping your losses. In this case, United Airlines is at $25, and in the trade that I recommend, you're selling the $20 put. So it would have to drop $5 before you start to take any sort of heat on the actual trade.
Okay.
Here's United Airlines. This is my second trade that I recommend. I am going to do recommend doing quantity two of this. So it's a little bit more of a risk. It ends up being 600 and change rather than 500 after you take into account the $124 of premium that you're collecting. It's a $676 risk to make $124 in 30 days. So that's a solid little return. When you look at it, that's 18% in 30 days. Who wouldn't want that? You'll want to sell the $20 put, and then you want to limit your risk by buying the 16. Let me preface this. I didn't say this in the first segment, but you want to buy the lower strike put first when you're selling a vertical put spread. So you buy the 16 first, and that limits your losses, and then you'll sell the $20 put. So in this case, buying the 16 around 48 cents or so, and then selling the $20 put for, right now it's 113. And that ends up being a credit of 65 cents. So you'd make $65 on each pair of these that you own, basically by buying the 16 and selling the 20. And then you'd be risking the difference of $335 on each one. This is the risk profile for United Airlines doing that trade quantity two. So you'll be risking $335 times two, so $670 total. To make the difference there of $130 basically. Max gain, you'll see here, 130, and then max loss, 670, nice and clean on either end of that. So as long as United Airlines is above $20, you'll you'll make your full profit, and then your break even ends up being your premium minus 20 basically. So the moment it goes below 1935 basically, from then on out, you'd actually see a loss on the trade. My third recommendation is another ETF. It's an ETF for US REITs, real estate investment trust. It is beaten up a bit as well. So the options trade a little bit more expensive because of the perceived downside risk. In this particular case, it's at $73, and I would recommend committing to buy it at 67 and then cap your loss at 62. And it ends up being a pretty good return. On this particular trade, you're going to generate 56 cents up front on that $5 risk. So it ends up being a 12.6% return over 30 days. Your odds of winning on this trade are basically 75% odds of actually success by doing this trade. So in this particular case, you're going to want to sell the $67 put for $1.05, $1.06, and then buy the 62 for 50 cents. You could probably get them for a little bit less and make a little bit more on this. I will say that you don't want to just pay the asking price or take the bid. Try and put an order in between these levels, and typically you'll be able to get a better price on both ends of it and end up getting a little bit better return for it by doing so. So this is a risk profile for the IYR trade, where your max gain visualized is $58 at expiration, and your max loss ends up being $442. Obviously, the gain is always going to be a lot smaller than the loss because it's a low risk, low return trade. It's not very likely that this occurs, so the loss is larger. It's very likely that you do this, and about 8 out of 10 times off the stats that we're seeing, you're going to make money. So after 8 times of doing it, you've got quite a bit of a gain. And then on the 2 times that you lose, typically it'll be on this end of the spectrum. It's very rare that it ends up going just full loss all the way down. I'm actually going to track these trades, and we'll be able to recap after they expire and show, was it a winner, was it a loser, and what kind of losses you may have seen along the way. And we'll recap and then offer new ones. Once these expire, we'll offer 2 new trades for July to pair up with that TLT trade that won't be expiring until July 17th. So with those 3 option trades, 2 of them expiring in 30 days and 1 in 60 days, you end up making $246 on a total risk of about $1,560 roughly. So a pretty solid return. I would just set the trades and then just check on them just before expiration. June 18th for the 2 Junes, and then July 16th or so for the TLT, to make sure you don't have to do anything. The only time you'll have to is if the put that you shorted is in the money. Then you'll want to close that out at that point, and it'll be a losing trade. But they should be winners. They were all right around 80% almost odds of success. So pretty high success rate.
All right, guys, if you made it this far in the video, do us a favor, hit that little like button down there and hit the subscribe button. It helps us out big time. All right, guys, see you next time.